All right, day 7 of 49ers Intel is here. And this marks around the halfway point of training camp. So we can have some fun with this. And we're going to go through what's been good at 49ers training camp so far and what has been bad. I created a list for both good and bad. But first, we're going to get going with the highlights that the 49ers put out from today's camp on their sizzle reel, because this is always the fun part. So without further ado, sizzle reel commence. Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk. Get used to that. I think that was Sam Darnold going to Danny Gray. Look at the elevation there from Danny Gray. And then how about this throw? Trey Lance throws the deep out so beautifully. That's Tay Martin making the catch right near the sideline. This is Kalon Laborn on the draw play that I tweeted about. Shot out of a cannon. You could see he's built like a bowling ball. And I think he's going to be a really good 49ers running back for the practice squad, unless this injury to Elijah Mitchell persists. Now, let's go back to this. This is D. Winters, the rookie linebacker, intercepting Trey Lance. Underneath route, hook defender, skies up into the air, good anticipation. D. Winters moves forward with what could have been a pick six. Nobody really wrapped him up. It wasn't move the ball kind of stuff. So you can never tell for sure what's a pick six and what's not on those interceptions over the middle. But D. Winters delivered. He delivered against Sam Darnold the other day. We'll replay this just so we can watch Danny Gray sky up into there. I mean, look at that. I just paused it intentionally. He's a good 30 inches up into the air, maybe even more. I mean, that's a hell of a catch by Danny Gray, who started to show up in a big way for the 49ers today. A couple catches from Sam Darnold in the move the ball period, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, this is Lance's best throw of the day, the deep out to Tay Martin. Lance has got arm strength, and Lance is really pretty with those deep out throws. It's the shorter game that's been an issue. And today, the interception actually came on a shorter pass. There it is. D. Winters, underneath defender. 53, rookie, 6th round pick, instincts out of TCU, makes the play. That's 49ers Intel on day 7. Most of you probably watched me coming off the practice field today. I reported what happened. It was Brock Purdy at 7 out of 10. It was Trey Lance at 5 out of 8 with the pick that you just saw. And then Sam Darnold at 6 of 8. So Darnold and Purdy were the two best QBs today, although all three did good stuff. You saw the deep out from Trey Lance to Tay Martin. I will say that Brock Purdy, after an incompletion to Deebo Samuel to begin his afternoon, he ripped off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight completions, which were, things were crisp on those 5 straight completions. One to Ayuk, one to Jordan Mason, another one to Ayuk, another one to Jawan Jennings on a crosser over the middle. These were timing intermediate routes. When Jimmy Garoppolo got cooking, right, he was always really good at those routes over the middle of the field, timing, looking off a safety, just essentially playing as part of Kyle Shanahan's system, because you're moving defenders every which way due to your decoys and due to the fact that you've got 5 really capable eligibles. I thought Brock Purdy had a good command over what was going on in the middle of the field today. And that was even without some of his best offensive weapons. George Kittle was out. Christian McCaffrey was out. And the 49ers offensive line was a shell of what it normally is. Trent Williams had an off day, just like Kittle and McCaffrey. And then at left guard, Aaron Banks suffered a concussion on Tuesday. So because of the on Tuesday, Aaron Banks suffered the concussion. Because of the concussion, the 49ers had to go to the depth at left guard and their depth at left tackle, with Trent Williams getting the off day. Compounding the issue, John Feliciano, who is the veteran depth at the guard positions, he's out with a shoulder injury. So you had Leroy Watson, second-year player, converted from tight end to tackle last year, as the 49ers starting left tackle today. And then you had a platoon between 2 second-year players at left guard right next to him, and Jason Poe and Nick Zakelj. Despite that, I thought that Brock Purdy hung in the pocket well. I thought that Sam Darnold was good in the pocket, and I didn't think that Trey Lance was terrible, although later in practice is when Lance struggled comparatively to both Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. It was the move the ball session that I promised to talk about. Now, what does move the ball mean? Well, normally in practice, everybody will just kind of huddle behind the 22 players who are taking part in the play. Kyle Shanahan will be there with his radio, and you're just going to see snap after snap after snap from the same spot on the field. And that's because the 49ers are going through a script. Kyle Shanahan will radio in the play. They're going through the script. They're installing certain plays. It's definitely practice. It's definitely something that the 49ers are doing over and over again for repetition's sake. And it's not a game situation where they're actually having to adapt to different down and distances. After the 49ers get enough of that type of work in early in training camp, so about a week in, which is where we are at right now, they'll break out into move the ball sessions, which typically come at the end of practice. And the offense will go to its sideline. The defense will go to its sideline. It's no longer a bunch of guys congregated behind the 22 who are playing. So move the ball sessions are where the chains actually move, where the plays actually depend on the down and distance, where there might even be a game clock up on the scoreboard, and it's meant to simulate an actual game. So it's actual scrimmage work. That's what they call move the ball work. So the 49ers moved on to move the ball work, and the three quarterbacks fared differently. Brock Purdy's offense, when he did his move the ball session, they picked up 2 first downs, including a nice third down conversion to Jordan Mason. Sam Darnold's offense fared the best. They picked up 3 first downs and were in red zone scoring range when he missed a throw to Braden Willis. It was incomplete in the end zone, and they whistled that period dead, but he should have had 2 more chances, but he didn't get it. And then Trey Lance, he did the worst. His offense did the worst. The interception that you saw from D. Winters, that was actually the first play of the Trey Lance move the ball period. And then Trey Lance had another shot because that interception happened so early in his opportunity. They said, okay, give it another go. And the offense went 3 and out. The reason that I split this into move the ball and regular work is because in the past, move the ball sessions, once we've tallied up all the stats, have actually been predictive of a quarterback's in-season stats. 2021 is the best example. In 2021, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously Lance was working with the second team. Jimmy Garoppolo, the starter, was working with the first team. The stats were relatively even for the 2 quarterbacks over the first week. Well, you would obviously give the edge to Garoppolo because he was working against the first team defense, but still, stats are relatively even. People are like, oh, well, what's the difference? Well, then all of a sudden, once move the ball work started, the stats became very disparate. Garoppolo was at like 68% completion percentage. He was scoring some touchdowns, leading some scoring drives. The interceptions were relatively low. Meanwhile, Trey Lance's completion percentage and moved the ball as a rookie in 2021 dipped to 48%. And he was throwing more picks than scoring drives. And all of a sudden, everybody understood, okay. And Kyle Shanahan even was frustrated after a couple practices because, Trey Lance wasn't managing the offense yet like a veteran. He was a rookie. Kyle Shanahan mentioned that at a press conference. I still remember, it's clear as day in 2021. Coming off the field, he wanted Lance to be managing a down and distance and a clock situation better. So what we saw was the move the ball period of practice, which requires situational awareness, which more closely resembles what we see in a game. The veteran quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo was good in the move the ball period. The rookie quarterback and Trey Lance in 2021 was not good in the move the ball period. And that ended up, I think, projecting into the season, right? It ended up projecting what the 49ers were going to do at the quarterback situation, and ended up showing what they actually and how they actually perform in the regular season. So the reason that these move the ball periods are, I think, significant to watch is that right there. And the sample size is still really small. And I will say that the other day, 2 or 3 days ago, when Trey Lance had his best day of practice, he went 9 of 11. The 49ers ran a move the ball period in that practice, and Trey Lance was the best 49ers quarterback. That was when he hit that throw to Ray McLeod, where only McLeod could get it on the slant coming over the middle. That's when he hit Tay Martin on the deep out to set up the field goal. That was a move the ball 2-minute drill that Trey Lance executed masterfully. So one day Trey is great. Today and move the ball, he was bad. He threw the pick, and then there was the 3 and out, and the line didn't block all too well for him. The point is that you can't obsess over one practice here and one practice there, which is what people are doing. People are taking victory laps after one practice if they like Trey Lance and he goes 9 of 11. And then people are taking victory laps if they like Brock Purdy after today's practice and Trey Lance doesn't do as well in the move the ball period. At the end of the day, your victory laps are worthless because that's not even, you're taking a victory lap for a battle that's not even being fought, right? The 49ers are, QB1 is Brock Purdy's job. The 49ers are just trying to make a quarterback room as deep as possible behind Brock Purdy. Everybody wins if Trey Lance plays well. Everybody wins if Sam Darnold also plays well. Everybody wins if obviously Brock Purdy holds serve and plays well. The fact that this is so combative just doesn't make any sense to me. But you want Trey Lance to be good in the move the ball periods because it signifies that his development has been heading in the right direction. And he did really well a few days ago. Today, smaller sample. He only had a few plays, didn't do as well. So we'll see how that moves going forward. Today also was a lighter practice for the 49ers. This was a football team that, again, didn't see Trent Williams out there, had some injuries along the interior offensive line that prevented their first two options at left guard from playing. You didn't see your two, extremely versatile offensive weapons in Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle participate. All of those guys are going to be out there tomorrow. Now, initially, we didn't expect Brock Purdy to be out there today. It was normally, it had started at 2 days on, 2 days off for Brock Purdy, but he has been undergoing so little elbow soreness that the 49ers have decided, okay, it's 2 days on, 1 day off. We can move on to the next phase of what's going on. Kyle Shanahan's been really unclear about that in his press conferences. He's like, no, it's always been 2 days on, 1 day off. But the other day, Kyle Shanahan said, no, it's actually 2 days on, 2 days off, or maybe Lynch said that. Well, now very clearly it was 2 days on, 1 day off for Purdy. He was back at practice. And, that lines up for this to work out for the Vegas practices next week, because we expect Brock Purdy to practice tomorrow. That's Friday. Then the 49ers will practice on Saturday, but I expect Purdy to be off. So then you have 2 off days for Brock Purdy on the 5th and the 6th, which sets up a practice on the 7th and a practice on the 8th, Monday and Tuesday for Brock Purdy at the 49ers facility. Then he's off on Wednesday. That's when I fly to Vegas. And then the joint practices are next Thursday and Friday. So the schedule that Brock Purdy's on right now dictates that he will be QB1 for the 49ers in their joint practices against the Raiders. And those begin in exactly a week. Those are on August 10th and August 11th. And of course, the QB1 on the other side is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. So there'll be no shortage of storylines there. All right, let's move on to 49ers good and bad. That's 49ers intel from day 7. If you want a couple more notes, well, I'm going to get to most of these notes, I think, in the good and the bad. I could give you the injury report. Elijah Mitchell has a slight tear in his adductor muscle, which is a core muscle that'll keep him out for about a week to a week and a half. Tough break for the 49ers running back, who obviously has suffered quite a few injuries over his couple seasons with the football team. I mentioned Aaron Banks has a concussion. John Feliciano, guard depth, has a shoulder injury. Good news on the Jalen Moore front, the tackle who went down in practice a few days ago. He has a bone bruise, so there's no structural damage in his knee. And he's not walking around with a limp anymore, but he still has a sleeve over his knee and still going to miss probably a couple more practices at the very least. And Kalia Davis out of practice right now, second-year defensive tackle with a hamstring injury. All right, so 49ers good and bad. We are 7 practices into training camp. We got 2 more practices in this block. Then there's going to be a day off on Sunday, and then 2 more practices next week before another day off and the joint practices against the Raiders. So 6 really intense practices will be happening between tomorrow and next Friday. It's going to be really, really good. Block of 2, block of 2, block of 2 against the Raiders. And then the preseason game on Sunday. What's it going to be? I want to say 13th, August 13th against the Raiders. Good thing it's not Friday the 13th. It's Sunday the 13th in Las Vegas. So over what we've seen so far over the 7 days, heading up into this next 6 practice stretch, what has been good? What has been bad? Well, I'll tell you what's been good. Brock Purdy knocking off rust really quickly. I tweeted about this today. Brock Purdy in his 49ers career, so his NFL career, has only 2 practices in training camp where he hasn't completed 50% of his passes. One of those practices was last year, and the second one of those practices was the first one back from elbow surgery just a few days ago. Brock Purdy went 3 of 10. A lot of people freaked out. Well, since that 3 of 10 practice, Brock Purdy has now strung together 4 straight practices, and his cumulative completion percentage over those 4 straight practices has been 70%. So Brock Purdy, I wouldn't say that he's on fire, but boy, it looks like he's efficient. It looks like he's accurate. And this is just about 4.5 months after he had elbow surgery, a surgery that many people expected would shelve him for at least 6 months. That was the standard estimation at the time of the surgery. It's only been about 4.5 months. Brock Purdy had 1 day at practice, his first day back, where he was 3 of 10, but he has quickly found his timing. He's quickly found his rhythm since then, and he's completed 70% of his passes over the 4 subsequent practices. So yes, rust was a thing. There were people laughing at that. Oh, how would it not be a thing? He's coming off of elbow surgery, hasn't been in an NFL practice over the course of, a long time, since last January 27th or 28th, probably, before the game against the Eagles. He has to knock off that rust. It looks like he is knocking off that rust. That is great news for the 49ers. Another piece of good news for the 49ers, Trey Lance has carried his mechanical fixes into camp. There was a lot of doubting about whether or not Trey Lance would be able to take what he worked on in the lab with Jeff Christensen this offseason, tightening up the release, taking away that looping motion, cleaning up the footwork. A lot of people said, well, as soon as he gets into a practice situation, it's going to go all out the window, and the mechanics are going to revert to what they were doing before, which wasn't good, which was an elongated looping release, sloppier footwork, because Trey Lance was such a raw quarterback. Well, guess what? The people that said that Trey wouldn't be able to carry it over have been wrong. I'm there every practice, and the throwing motion, even with live bullets flying out there, Trey Lance has maintained his abbreviated throwing motion. He has actually increased his accuracy. He's completing something like 62, 63% of his passes. Is he perfect? No. Is he still missing on some of the gimmies? Yes. And I've documented that well. But 2 things can be true at once. You could say that Trey Lance has improved and he has maintained the mechanical improvement from the offseason to become more accurate and a better quarterback right now. And you could also say that there are still concerning, significant weaknesses with his accuracy that he must still address. Those 2 things can coexist. He has improved. He was a 55% passer last year at training camp to something like 63 or 64% now. That's improved, but I think he's still leaving 70% out there on the table. And Purdy's been at 70% over the past 4 practices. I don't see a reason for Trey Lance to not be able to get to 70% if he can clean up the short game. It's the basis for everything. You can't sail passes to George Kittle in the flat. You can't sail passes to Deebo Samuel leaking out of the backfield. You have to be able to hit those with essentially lockdown accuracy. I mean, it can't, maybe 5% of the time you let one slip, but it can't be a 60% throw into the flat. It's got to be a 95% throw into the flat for Trey Lance. But the good news is that he's carried a lot of the mechanical fixes into camp. So I think there's every reason to believe that with some more reps, he can get better at some of these throws. Again, you saw the deep out to Tay Martin. It was so pretty. He's been money with those throws. It is the shorter throws. And in a way, that's more maddening for a coaching staff, right? Because he's got the arm talent to hit the big ones to the sideline. He's got to just find the mechanical consistency to hit the shorter ones. And I think that's the story of Trey Lance right now. He's got a really high upside, but he's also got a low floor. And he's got to raise that floor so he can leap up and touch the ceiling. More good. I think that Sam Darnold has looked very workable to me, and John Lynch said this as well. It looked like on Sunday a light came on for Sam Darnold. Had a really, really good outing, right, for the 49ers. Forgot what he was. Was he 8 of 10, 7 of 9, 9 of 11? I forget, but he threw 3 touchdown passes to Brandon Ayuk in the red zone, threw another touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk in the open field. Really seemed that he was comfortable, confident within the offense. I mean, he was rolling out when he hit Brandon Ayuk on one of those touchdowns. It was a dime. The end zone angle made it look even more impressive than I realized it was. I mean, Sam's a talented quarterback. You've got Kyle Shanahan over here saying, hey, Steve Young, when he came over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, everybody thought he sucked, and then he turned into a Hall of Famer with the 49ers. Why can't Sam do that? Is that Shanahan getting a little too far ahead of himself? For click, the people who like the clicks and the people who want to take any soundbite from Shanahan and turn it into a gotcha moment, sure. Maybe that wasn't the best thing to say because now people are going to make fun of it. But let's just sit back and appreciate Shanahan's point. And it is that Sam Darnold is supremely talented, was a number 3 overall pick in 2018. He's got arm talent up the wazoo. He can move. I mean, we've seen him move even against the 49ers on that great throw to Braxton Berrios in 2020. I mean, he has all the physical tools that you want. It is possible that the reason he hasn't succeeded so far is because he's been in terrible situations with the Jets and the Panthers. And that's the theory of the 49ers. And that's one that Shanahan's willing to put to the test. And that's why he brought up Steve Young in a comparison to Sam Darnold, because Steve Young was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's the old creamsicle Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's not the new uniform John Lynch Tampa Bay Buccaneers, although Lynch started with Tampa Bay back when they're in the creamsicle jerseys. But Young was back there when it was a totally inept franchise, and they're ready to run him into the ground. And then he came to the 49ers and everything changed once he got good coaching and he was surrounded by good teammates. So maybe the same thing can happen for Sam Darnold. More good is that the stars have been stars, and that includes Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk is in that 49ers star core. If he continues to prove that here over the course of the regular season, they're going to have to pay him next offseason. You're not going to want to let go of a receiver like Brandon Ayuk. But between Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, who's coming to camp skinny, right? He's lost a lot of weight, and I think he's in a position to have a big year. They're calling him Skinny Deebo in 2021. He had a historic year. Well, they're saying that he's cut a lot of weight now. We've seen it. He's cut a lot of weight now. I think it's time for Deebo Samuel to have another bounce back season for the 49ers. Odd year Deebo, we can call him that. 2019, 2021, now 2023, with 2020 and 2022 being the off season. So Deebo Samuel's looking good. The star power, I mean, George Kittle looks like George Kittle when he's out there. Christian McCaffrey, oh my gosh, is that guy something else with the way that he gets after it at these practices. So the 49ers have that Pro Bowl roster, and much of that roster is delivering. Now, that moves on to one of our bad points, is that Nick Bosa is not yet in the building. And this is fun for nobody. Everybody wants Nick Bosa in the building. You can't spin it to say, oh, it's a good thing he's not in the building. He's not there because they haven't agreed on a very important contract yet. They're not panicking. They think they're going to agree on this contract before the season starts. But at some point, you want Nick Bosa in that building for obvious reasons. A, he's got to develop his callus before the season. He's Nick Bosa, so he probably doesn't need as much work as the next guy. But still, you want the vibes around the team to be good. You don't want this to become something that people are loudly talking about a week before the regular season starts. It's simply not a good situation if he's there. At best, it's neutral, but probably trending toward bad. You just want this to be taken care of. And I understand the deadline pressure in this situation is a little fungible, that it doesn't have to be one specific deadline at the start of camp, but there is a specific deadline, and it's called week 1, September 10th. And I get that that's still 5 weeks away. But I think that the 49ers do not want to let this approach remotely close to September 10th, because it's only bad if it does for them, right? So let's keep our eyes out on what's going on here with Nick Bosa and the 49ers, because they need to get this guy signed before the start of the regular season, and the sooner the better. Because if you bring him in now, you don't have to worry about all the potential downstream distractions later on. More good. Deshaun Jameson and Spencer Wagee might be in for unexpected contributions. Now, this is what I wrote about alongside Matt Barrows, amongst many other things yesterday. We interviewed the 49ers assistant coaches. And there's the article, 49ers assistants on their QBs. So obviously we have Brian Griese, who's photographed there with Trey Lance and Brandon Allen. But the assistants also talked about Deshaun Jameson and Christian McCaffrey's impact. And Chris Kasarik talked about Spencer Wagee. I don't think people expected on this deep of a roster. They didn't expect undrafted free agents to have a chance to make a true splash and contribute early into the 2023 season. But it looks like Spencer Wagee out of North Dakota State, he was actually Trey Lance's teammate there, and Deshaun Jameson out of Texas, both UDFAs. It looks like both of these guys might be early contributors for the 49ers. They still have a long way to go to even make the roster. So that's why I say might be. I'm not sure. But the amount of praise that's been coming in for Deshaun Jameson has been profuse. Charvarius Ward today, and I've got an article on him coming out tomorrow. Charvarius Ward today even said that he takes pointers from Deshaun Jameson. Charvarius Ward is a $13.5 million corner, and Jameson's just a guy, an undrafted free agent who is fighting to make the football team. Yet the $1 million man or the multi-million-dollar man is taking tips from him on footwork patience, back pedal patience. You don't want to open up your hips and the back pedal too soon as a cornerback, because if you do, somebody's going to sit down in their route and you're going to be toast. You're going to be going off in the other direction. You can't give your hips away too soon. You've got to stay patient in your back pedal. And Charvarius Ward actually has said that Deshaun Jameson has made him a better football player. So how's that for team culture? You expect Charvarius Ward to be the leader in all things cornerback room? Well, he is in most of them, but the undrafted free agent number 22, Deshaun Jameson, is here giving Charvarius Ward some pointers. I'm sure the 49ers love that. And then there's Spencer Wagee, who played defensive end in North Dakota State, but has actually now moved inside because in the pre-draft process, he bulked up from 270 to 290 pounds. He figured he'd be a better tackle than end at the NFL level, and the 49ers obviously agree. And Wagee is flashing at these practices. So all of a sudden, our roster projection, which I could put up on the screen, it's right here, our roster projection gets a whole lot more complex because you've got guys like Deshaun Jameson and you've got guys like Spencer Wagee who are knocking on the door of making the team. And in case you haven't seen, my latest projection for the 49ers 53-man roster has both Jameson and Wagee making the 53-man. Now, there's a long, long way to go. Again, the preseason doesn't start until next week. A little bit more than a week with the game against the Raiders. That's where these guys are going to have a chance to show out. They put some good game tape on film, then they're going to make this 53-man roster, and the 49ers might have to make some tough decisions come late August. All right, more bad. I think Ambry Thomas is still getting out-muscled out on the football field. The issue with Ambry has always been strength at the point of catch. Remember, even in 2021 when he was new, he was in the right position so many times. I remember the game against Jamar Chase and the Bengals. Ambry Thomas was in position. He's quick. He's got good footwork. He's got good technique. But then he just got out-muscled for footballs. I mean, everything up until the moment of truth was good for Ambry Thomas. Then we hardly saw him outside of special teams in 2022. Now he's back in 2023. Charvarius Ward has had a little bit of a groin issue throughout practice. So Ambry Thomas is getting some first-team reps. And Brandon Ayuk is picking on him because Brandon Ayuk is big, wiry, and strong. A lot of these 50-50 jump balls, or let's say 50-50 balls, let's not say jump balls. The 50-50 balls, Brandon Ayuk is winning every time against Ambry Thomas. So Ambry has to keep on getting stronger. Because, I mean, if he's 49ers cornerback 3 or even cornerback 4, you might need to get to him at some point during this regular season. And the book is out on Ambry Thomas now. Throw it in his direction. Doesn't matter how good the coverage is because a strong receiver is going to be able to beat him. That's a tough rap to overcome. So Ambry has to stick to the weight room, stick to the NFL conditioning program. He still has some time to get a little bit stronger before the start of the season. And hell, the end of the season is months and months away. And, you know, depth is more likely to be needed later on. Ambry Thomas has to keep on supplementing, getting into that weight room, has to keep on adding some muscle because I think he needs a little bit more strength. More good for the 49ers, Javon Kinlaw's health and start to training camp. He's been fully healthy for nearly a year now, setback free for a while. He looks lean. He looks a little bit more like Eric Armstead's body type. No accident that Javon Kinlaw got that rep at defensive end in one-on-ones to open up the padded session of practice a couple days ago. I mean, this is house money for the 49ers. You're not counting on much for Javon Kinlaw after how much he's been hurt over the past 3 years. Well, now if you get something out of him, you're going to be really, really stoked if you're the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that this situation right here, contract year, the motivation couldn't be better. If this guy can stay healthy, he could be a game changer because he could, like we saw, he might even be playing a little bit of end at his newer, lighter weight. So, and even at a lighter weight, Javon Kinlaw is still built like an absolute unit. Complete, total, absolute unit. So even at that lighter weight, if he's spry, he can set an edge. The 49ers believe he's going to be a really good football player if he just has a chance to continue refining his craft thanks to health. Some bad from 49ers camp. Cameron Latu, the rookie tight end, late third-round pick. he seems to have, some trouble catching some of these footballs. Several drops so far, and drills, and even in team drills, we've seen some drops from Cameron Latu. We know that he is relatively raw, and we know that the 49ers see a ton of upside in Cameron Latu. But they also, if you look at some of the draft grades for him, and you won't ever know for sure because teams don't generally release their draft intelligence and their draft boards. But it does seem that Cameron Latu might have been a little overdrafted by the 49ers. It seems that most analysts, at least, had a 5th round grade on him, and the 49ers picked him low in the 3rd round. They justified that by saying, we think he's got a lot of untapped potential because he recently converted about 2 years ago from defensive line to tight end. 49ers think, and they thought, and they still think, that they can develop Cameron Latu past some early struggles. But there have been some early struggles. There have been some drops. And we just have to wait and see if these persist or if he's actually going to blossom into his body, into the ferocious tight end he thinks he can be. Another bad thing for the 49ers has been offensive tackle depth at the start of this training camp because Jalen Moore got hurt. I mentioned that. So beyond that, it gets sketchy because Trent Williams is taking all these days off. So at least they have a chance to work on it. But Leroy Watson just converted from tight end about a year ago. He was taking first team reps today. Who's beyond that? Because Jalen Moore's hurt. Who do you go to beyond Leroy Watson? Well, I could answer that question for you. We could go to our depth chart. It's a sketchy situation at tackle. You have Matt Pryor, veteran, who I don't think the 49ers have been blown away by. And then you have Alfredo Gutierrez, who obviously is not going to play for this football team. He's your international exception player. So you're heavy on guard if you're the 49ers, but that tackle depth might be a little bit shaky. It might even be something that gets the 49ers to sign somebody or maybe make a trade for a lower tier tackle at cut down day. We'll see where they are. We'll see where Jalen Moore's health is. We'll see how this team is evolving. Other guys can also get hurt, but tackle, they might be in that market for some more depth by the time the regular season comes. And one more bad, unreasonably biased fans. Probably not talking to many of you, maybe some of you here, but oh my God, has this been exhausting. I'm reporting objectively and accurately like I always do on all these practices, day in, day out, grinding my ass off, filling out a spreadsheet, making sure you have all the splits, talking about everything here on the show. Or unbiased, obviously. I mean, for crying out loud, I was the guy that recommended the 49ers draft Trey Lance back in 2021. Yeah, that was already 2 years ago. But, and this goes both ways too. You've got people in Brock Purdy's camp. You've got people in the Trey Lance camp. And I think it's more on the Trey Lance side when it comes to social media and fandom here, that are just demanding that you publish information that's not true, that's not correct. It's like, oh, you're not biased toward my guy? Well, you're biased then. It's like, no, you don't understand what the word bias means. Accurate reporting is not the act of putting out information that makes you feel good, that you want to hear. Accurate reporting is the process of putting out the truth. And I think that message needs to be said because there is some unreasonable bias out there. I'll tell you what, Brock Purdy has been good. Trey Lance, to me, has been good. He hasn't been as good as Brock Purdy. He's still missing some passes that he should be hitting. But in the larger picture of things, when the accuracy issues that we talked about, the mechanical issues we talked about, Trey's been good. And Sam Darnold, guess what? He's been good too. I think the 49ers also like what they've seen out of Brandon Allen. The truth of the matter is that there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good going on for the 49ers. There's also a little bit of bad. But as you can tell, there's more good because this is such a loaded roster, especially at the quarterback position. They are stacked with depth and they're cultivating that depth. And I think that's good. And I don't think that has to be controversial. So anytime something like this does become controversial, I consider that to be an unreasonably biased take because I put facts over feelings. But that's the good and that's the bad from 49ers training camp. I'm going to go ahead and open this up to a Q&A. I did that. That's 34 minutes of straight talking without any water. Probably not healthy, but we're in it for the viewers. How's everybody doing? By the way, it would be awesome if you subscribed to The Athletic and checked out this article on the 49ers assistant coaches. Mike put the link into the description, and I'm going to put the link into the description as well. We have our first good question. How is Moody? Moody is doing really well to the point where they're going to be able to trade Zane Gonzalez because Gonzalez is doing really well too. Just like quarterbacks are currency, kickers are currency, and Moody is doing well. Is DT as stacked as ever? I think so. I think defensive tackle for the 49ers is as deep as it's been in the Shanahan Lynch regime. I'm going to highlight defensive tackle here for you because now you could add Spencer Wagee to that group. Taco Charlton, no. Taco Charlton is actually a defensive end, but I just didn't have room for him elsewhere on the spreadsheet. Javon Hargrave, one of the best in the league. Eric Armstead, one of the best in the league. Javon Kinlaw, holy crap. I mean, if this persists, he could become a really plus player at defensive tackle. He just has to stay healthy. So don't count your chicken before it's hatched, but Javon Kinlaw, he is in the building. Kevin Givens, solid player, is never going to be a superstar, but good utility player on the inside. Kerry Hyder can also be on the inside, but he's been taking most of his reps on the outside because I think the 49ers have that log jam on the inside. Kalia Davis, explosive, currently hurt, hamstring injury, not serious. We're looking forward to seeing more of him. Spencer Wagee, well, there you go. Spencer Wagee is, he's a guy that's surprised. He's a guy that's turned some heads. He's a guy that is working really hard in his body. I mean, it's impressive that he's able to put on 20 pounds this year and then start delivering at an NFL camp the way that he is. You go down to Marlon Davidson, T.Y. McGill. Those are guys that probably won't make the roster, but they're there. So, yes, defensive tackle is absolutely loaded. I don't think that Jameson would make Ray expendable because Deshaun Jameson, first and foremost, they're going to be you're here. You're talking about the return game. I think Ray McLeod is valuable beyond the return game. He's fast as hell. He's Debo's primary backup. I mean, the 49ers can use Ray McLeod outside of special teams. And I don't think that Deshaun Jameson would immediately unseat Ray McLeod as a returner either. Take some experience to be a guy that can be trusted for that at the NFL level. The best mission-style burrito in San Francisco is just down the street from here. It's called Taqueria Cancun. I'm near Dolores Park. That is my location for this season. Awesome location here in the city. That's why you see me near Dolores in some of those city videos. Just go down 19th Street to Mission and Taqueria Cancun. It is not only the best mission-style burrito in San Francisco, Taqueria Cancun serves the best burrito in the world, period. I'm actually trying to find a picture. I'm hoping there's one in my photos right now, because if there is, because I went last night, if there is, then, oh yes, we're going to have one. It's just a foil, but I know that you guys appreciate the mission style burrito foil. Hopefully this gets Taqueria Cancun some more customers. Not like they need recommendations. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to... Oh, yeah, I have it here. Just give me 1 second, okay? I promise we're going to get this burrito up on the screen for you. I'm doing important work right now. Let him cook. Let him cook. Well, maybe this won't be as easy as I thought it would be. Trying to drag it from my Photos app into... Oh, I got it. I never should have doubted myself. I never should have doubted myself. Because I present to you the Taqueria Cancun mission style burrito. Look how big that thing is. And then, it's obviously in the foil. We got videos elsewhere, but we'll save those for another time. The thing about Taqueria Cancun at 19th and Mission is they're going to take the burrito and they're going to put it on top of the stove after. They're going to let that tortilla flake and make it nice and warm. A lot of places don't do anything to the tortilla. Cold tortillas are the worst, but even if it's just warm without being flaked, it's not going to be as good. So Cancun is going to cook the meat to order, fresh meat, but also the tortilla is really good. It's definitely not anticlimactic. It's somebody's saying that the foil is anticlimactic. Let me show you something else. Do you think that's anticlimactic? The foil is iconic because it has its own Wikipedia page. I present to you the Mission Burrito Wikipedia page. A Mission Burrito, also known as a San Francisco or Mission style burrito, is a type of burrito that first became popular in the Mission District. And look, let me search the word foil right here. Many taquerias specialize in Mission burritos. It is typically a large flour tortilla that's wrapped and folded around a variety of ingredients, served in a piece of aluminum foil. Look at that. Aluminum foil. It made the Wikipedia page. So, you talk crap about the foil, well, don't, because you're going to get another picture of it. The foil is famous. It's there for this burrito is so big that you need the foil for structural support. And hell yeah, Wikipedia is a right here. Wikipedia is a valid source. I teach a college class, and Wikipedia is a valid source for my students. So the college professors who told me back at Stanford I couldn't use Wikipedia, I think it's a lot better source than the book that the professor himself sometimes wrote. I'll die on that hill. Anyway, go to Taqueria Cancun. I love it. Hopefully you guys are having a good time. Why don't we talk a little bit more about the 49ers, though? I went off on a little tangent. Let's go back to the roster. Why don't we? I can't believe Wikipedia isn't a valid source. Is still up there. That's the 49ers 90-man depth chart. I made some amendments to it here over time because I do think that it has evolved. Spencer Wagee, Deshaun Jameson, those are guys that I think might be on their way to making the 53-man roster. Want me to talk about backup safeties? All right. Let's look. Here's the safety position. Jair Brown, George Odom. Well, I didn't mean to highlight Deshaun Jameson. Jair Brown, George Odom, Miles Hartsfield, Taylor Hawkins, and Quantrez Knight would be your backup safeties. Now, Charvarius Ward today said that he thinks that Jair Brown's going to start messing people up once game start. He said that Jair Brown is built like a man. That's the 49ers' third-round pick, their top pick from this past draft. So at least Charvarius Ward's really excited about Jair Brown. If you look at the other safeties on this depth chart, George Odom is a fine backup, but he's more of a special teamer. He's not going to raise the ceiling of your room very high, but he's also not going to lower the floor all too much, which is exciting. That's necessary too. It's like Oren Burks in the linebacker room. You want the youngsters to take the torch from him, but you want to keep that guy around because he's one of the best special teamers in football. Miles Hartsfield, to me, it's going to be tough for him to make this football team. He's a Steve Wilks guy. He's helping the 49ers implant their defense because he knows what Wilks wants. He played for him at Carolina. But gosh, I mean, this is a crowded roster. Maybe you're able to keep Hartsfield on the practice squad. Same thing with Taylor Hawkins, who was on the practice squad last year. Quantrez Knight, nice player. I mean, the 49ers are just so deep that barring injuries, it's just going to be hard for these guys to make the 53. But which is why the practice squad is an important thing to watch. 16 players large. And once guys start getting hurt, it's inevitable in an NFL season. You can start making those call-ups. Yeah, Charvarius Ward. I have an article dropping on Charvarius Ward tomorrow morning, and he was pumping up the rookies. He's also pumping up Brandon Ayuk and Danny Gray. Said Danny Gray's really matured this year, and we saw Danny Gray. I mean, we could play the sizzle reel one more time. Why not? Keep your little message on the screen. We'll see some youngsters here. There's Danny Gray. That's what I was talking about. Charvarius Ward was pumping him up today. Trey Lance, Tay Martin. That's a youngster, Tay Martin. Not a rookie, but a youngster. Lance throws that beautiful deep out. Now, speaking of rookies, there he is, Kalon LeBourne. Look at that bowling ball. He was moving fast on that draw. And there's a rookie. There's D. Winters. Now, Charvarius Ward had an interesting point. He said this is the interception from Trey Lance. Charvarius said that if Winters hadn't picked this ball off, that Deshaun Jameson would have. And if we keep on playing it, look, there it is. There's Deshaun right behind him. So I think that Mooney is right. I think that this would have been the first practice interception for Deshaun Jameson. Instead, it was the first practice pick for D. Winters. All right, let's ask some questions. Sorry if I didn't get to a question. I was talking about burritos there for a while. I see we have a lot of viewers. I might actually go get some water and sit back down. I think that's probably the way that I'm going to do things right now. So let me get my Lombardi is getting water message up there. Boom. All right, quick water break for me. I'm going to put the roster up for you, close the camera, and I'll talk to you guys all very soon. All right, I'm back. I'm not putting on my camera yet because I want to drink some water first. Survey some of the questions. Let's text it Mike. Got a lot of people on here today. Water break. There's Eric Gomes. Say hi to a regular viewer. Yeah, I do think that Hyder's better on the outside. Groin injury for Charvarius Ward. All right. The viewer count was going down too much. I had to turn the camera back on. I think a lot of look, it's going to start going back up. Now I'm going to start talking again. We're at 48 minutes. We're almost at our magic 49-minute mark. Mike is awesome. You know, we were out of practice the other day, and I was standing by all the little fence where all the fans are, and had like 4 or 5 fans come up, and Mike was at practice. So Mike comes down and starts talking to me, and then all of a sudden these fans come up, and some people wanted a picture or whatever. So I think I took a picture, but I had to run, and then it dawned on me like, oh, they watched this, right? I said, hey, do you know Mike? And they're like, oh, yeah, we know Mike because Mike does such a great job. And I said, well, this is Mike. He's standing right there. And all these guys went crazy. I don't know what Mike you said what happened after that. I like left after that. You started talking to all these fans, but I thought it was pretty cool. Mike is a good dude. Mike is from Visalia. That's my hometown. And I think that we have some viewers who are from Visalia, which is pretty cool too. But anyway, that was a neat little moment there. I know Mike does all his good stuff behind the scenes, and he was very much in front of the scene. He wasn't behind the scene at 49ers training camp the other day. Wilkes has said more blitzes this year. Can we expect anything other than Warner and Oliver blitzing? Yeah, we could expect Dre Greenlaw on some blitzes, corner blitzes. I think Steve Wilkes is going to dial up some exotic stuff. I think that's the main key. The coverages on the back end will be exotic. There'll be some aggressiveness. We saw a zone drop the other day. It ended up working out for the defense. It wasn't the call that Wilkes, I think, wanted to have against that offensive play call, but Drake Jackson was trailing Elijah Mitchell right down the sideline. Incompletion right off of Drake Jackson's back. So anyway, that was a nice zone blitz, which means that you drop your ends and you bring some combination of linebackers instead of them, and you try to confuse the hell out of the offense. I think Steve Wilkes is going to be running that kind of aggressiveness. Somebody answer this for David C. Is Minnesota a fun road trip? I can't wait to see that stadium. I haven't seen it yet, so I think Minneapolis would be fun. The stadium, I heard, is one of the best in the NFL, but you guys can talk about that in the chat section. Hanford, stand up. I think a lot of people care about the burrito. Why don't you guys let RLTW know that you care about the burrito? Because I think that you do. Anytime I talk about burritos, like, the viewership goes up. So I think you're the only one that doesn't care about the burrito, RLTW. Switzerland. Awesome. Good morning from Switzerland. Do you believe that McKivitz will be an adequate replacement for McGlinchey? If he stays healthy, I think the one issue with McKivitz has been he's gotten hurt. I don't want to say regularly, but he's been constantly, it seems, dealing with stuff when he has gotten a longer stretch of play for the 49ers. If he can stay healthy, this guy, I think he could be a good pass protector. His body, he has leaned out, but he's gotten stronger over the years. He used to not look like a starting NFL tackle. And they weren't sure at the start of his career if he was going to play inside or outside. But he has gone on that tackle track here over the past couple seasons. He looks like a nice, long, strong tackle. And if he can stay healthy, I think Colton McKivitz can give you an upgrade over Mike McGlinchey in pass protection. See, there we go. You got people who care about the burrito and other fine dining on the channel. You got Val Ramos saying that burritos are fire. You have Norm saying that Chipotle is trash, which is generally true. So Norm thinks Qdoba is fire. I think Qdoba is trash too. It's all about the mission style burritos. It's all about Taqueria Cancun and those kind of places in the city. Seriously, if you guys come into town for a Niners game this year, go to San Francisco, Taqueria Cancun, 19th and Mission. You will not be disappointed by either the chicken super burrito or the carne asada super burrito. Tom is hungry. So am I, but I'm still doing this show. So hit that like button, hit the sub button. Adrian thinks the Niners are going to have more sacks than the Eagles this season. Oh, okay. It's a bold prediction. The Eagles had 70 last year. Eagles, I mean, they almost broke the NFL record. That belongs to the Bears. I think that's 72. Yeah, local burritos are always better than chain ones. Heck yes. This would be fun. Q&A at a brewery. Good idea. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all the questions. I got hungry. That's a bad little message on the bottom. I'm not getting water right now. I'm going to tell you to subscribe to The Athletic. I think that's fair. Why don't you guys do that? You could go and check out this article interviewing the 49ers assistant coaches. It's up on the description. So go ahead and check that out. Everybody, thanks for joining. We're going to have more and more coming soon. So I am out, and I'll talk to you very shortly. Bye now.